everyone! Today I'm going to analyze a really interesting style by Vionnet with lots of inserts to add volume and flair. I'm gonna compare it to different ways of adding flair and also how the dress works. Let's have a look at the Vionnet Godet dress. Let's have a little chat about inserts or godets. So we already talked about inserts when we talked about gussets underneath sleeves. And here's a really nice medieval example where you can sort of see how gussets developed and also godets. So gussets are underneath the arm to enable volumes, movement, so they're triangles, so they add a bit of extra volume and they enable movement. And godets are serve a similar function, but they're sort of normally inserted in a slit from the waist. So you can have a fitted bodice without any darting or shaping, and then by inserting godets you get the full skirt. And that sort of developed when you know, that's probably the width of your cloth, so it would be hand woven. If you ever done weaving, you know how long it takes. So I didn't want to cut it up and put shaping in, so you would have these long straight pieces, and then to create different silhouettes you insert triangles to add more volume to get your different silhouette. And in both the United States and actually in the UK we call these triangles godets. In French, godets are squares. So as usual, everything's slightly confusing. The dress I'm going to analyze in a second is this one, which I think is really clever because it could be really contemporary, because you can have it as a shorter dress, as a long dress, but it's just really flattering and understated, but very elegant in the black as well. Actually, no, sorry, I apologize. It's not black. It's just a black and white photo. It was scarlet, so bright red, so even more dramatic. And she's done it very cleverly, because normally godets are inserted into a slit. But by incorporating the darts, so this is actually pure flat pattern cutting. This is not very Madame la Vionnet, apart from the shoulder and the sleeve, but we're going to ignore them because you can't flat pattern cut them very easily. So she's incorporated the darts, and that means instead of the godets being inserted into a slit, which makes it really hard to stitch, especially in a silk, because you're stitching to nothing, so it's a keyhole entry. By incorporating the darts, you end up with a tiny bit of seam allowance, so you can just put them together with 0.5 centimeter seam allowance instead of going to nothing. So it's quite clever, and it also gives you the shaping, so it goes into the waist, and then the godets create the volume. So it's very much like a flared or panel skirt, but it's all made out of one fabric, so it gives you a different look. So it's very plain at the top, and then it's just got this really nice detail. There's different ways of using godets. I wanted to show you this one, which is a very famous one, which is like a petal dress from the 1920s, and you can see the waist has got like a zigzag all of 90 degrees, and it basically acts similar, but rather than a slit you got right angles, and then again you insert what is a triangle with rounded corners, and that again gives you the volume and the full skirt to a fitted waist, which is quite clever. And a third one, which is quite different, but I wanted to show it to you, is this Vionnet dress, and that is just pure sort of what you think of 1930s evening dresses, I think. And you can see here this side bit, that's actually a godet. I'm not sure it's a rectangle or a triangle, but the whole front is actually one piece of cloth. And can you see all the drapes here? That is because this right angle is probably either a dart or a slit, And then by inserting a square edge of fabric, all the volume is pushed from up there to down there, and it gives you a beautifully draped fabric. But it is the same sort of method where you insert a triangle or square into a slit, and it pushes aside the fabric and creates really beautiful drape lines. So let's have a look at this dress. Yes, I don't think I would drape the top part. If you hate draping or you find it a bit intimidating, I totally understand that. What I would do, I would make a version of a dress and maybe just use the dropped shoulder tutorial, which is on Patreon. I linked to it in the description. And then you can just add a flared sleeve, and it's slit open with the top, but it's just a flared sleeve, and the seam has just moved from the underarm to the top of the arm. And at the back, because they basically extended the dropped sleeve from the front, and it's one piece which wraps round to the back. So that's why I think I would drape it, because it's all squares and it's got some draping through a tuck. So that's quite hard to do in flat pattern cutting nicely and quickly. It's much easier to drape it. But if you don't want to do it, just do a boat neck, dropped shoulders and the sleeve. So it's not identical, but it will give you a nice look of a sort of fitted shoulders, fitted bodice, and lots of really nice gentle shaping. So let's have a look at this dress. So, as I said, it has a very gentle, slight, they call it a cowl neck. But it's a very gentle cowl neck. But basically, because it's a straight line, by having a little tuck, it becomes curved. So it is very clever. So if you want to try it out, it'd be really nice. But then basically it's got a dropped shoulder, whether you do it as a square or shaped, it's the same thing. And then it's got a fitted waist, and it looks pretty fitted, and then it flares out. But because I've drawn it more flared and more princessy than it is, and because it's got the Godet inset, the dress itself wants to go straight down, but then you got the Godets want to come out. So the silhouette it's a bit more sophisticated, because it's basically a combination of a full flared dress put into a straight dress. So everything hangs down more, but you still get the same volume. So it's actually a really nice way of cutting. And then you have to decide how many Godets or inserts you want. So they have done 5 at the front and 3 at the back. But what I find quite interesting on the illustration, which is apparently, I have tried to find the back, I think the original, but can you see 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So illustration is slightly different from the actual dress. So it's always a bit weird how all these illustrations are not like with dresses. And I think here I can't actually tell whether 1, 2, 3, I think it's 5, because I think that's the middle, and then you have 2 either side. So I think you can decide it. To tell you the truth, 4 is probably easier to make, because you can just split up your darts. So that is quicker to make. 4, to split it into 5, your darts become really narrow, but it is possible as well. So whatever you decide on, what you end up with is basically your bust and your waist darts all moved into parallel lines towards the waist, and that's the top half, that's this here. So they actually look like this, and that gives you the opening to then stitch in your Godets. So the Godets come out, and you can make the Godets however wide you want them to be. So that's a really sort of slim line. So the Godets are quite narrow, they're not that wide. And there's also something I don't know what's going on here because they're all sort of slightly asymmetric. But I would make them all the same, top and front. She probably had a reason because it was draped while they're all different, but I would make them the same. And there is a Godet in the side seam as well. So if you make them quite narrow, it becomes sort of a dress within a wool or linen or cotton. Actually becomes quite day-weary. It's just a flared summer dress. And this would be a really nice summer flared dress. But in the silk, it sort of becomes quite glamorous. So it's up to you, and basically the bigger you make the triangle, so the more flared it becomes. So if you wanted to go really over top, you could actually make each triangle 45 degrees or 90 degrees. And just imagine if you added 8 90 degrees, you actually add 2 full circles, so you become a dress, which would be fantastic ball gown or something. But I quite like this sort of really understated elegance as well. But the technique is great because it's so versatile. So we can just insert all the Godets. So you got the shaping from the darts, and then we got the triangle. And that's what I'm going to show you how to draft on Friday. So I hope you like it. I know a few of you requested it, and as I said, I wouldn't flat pattern cut the top half exactly. I would either slightly adapt it and do it through flat pattern cutting, or I would actually I would just drape the top half onto a basic bodice block, and then you can attach it to your flat drafting. So you can attach then the square up there and your back to your normal bodice block and do the bottom half through flat pattern cutting. But this is the drafting analysis of a 1930s dress with lots of Godet, and I'll be back on Friday with the drafting tutorial. Bye!